In this segment, I want to talk to you about something that I really struggle with myself. You know, as parents, and sometimes especially moms, we can keep a lot of guilt on us, but eventually we must come to understand that it's really not our fault. Unless you put the drugs in their mouth, it's really not your fault. It's really more about choices that they are making following a sequence of decisions made along the way. I want to cover a few things here to put away this notion that you need to bear all the guilt, and therefore the shame that goes with it. There are really 3 C's that are at the core of this understanding that it's not your fault. These 3 C's come from Al-Anon, which is the family component of AA recovery, where they figured out a long time ago that it really wasn't any fault to the family. These 3 C's are: 1, you didn't cause it; 2, you can't control it; and 3, you can't cure it. Let's look at each one of these individually. I just want you to stop blaming yourself, or anyone else for that matter. That's the first thing that you have to come to terms with. Can't keep blaming that spouse that you're no longer married to, or those friends that your child is hanging out with, or maybe the current spouse who you might feel is not supporting you, or anyone else that you place blame on. Your teenager is now old enough that they can take responsibility for the choices that they are making. Even if you do think you could have done a better job as a parent, you did the best job with the information you had at that time. Solving this problem is not about assigning blame. We have to get past that. You can't really be a part of the solution if you keep holding on to that blame. I know you may need to think about this for just a while. It took me some time to shed this notion of not blaming others as well as myself. Or you may be one of those who's thinking, you're right, I didn't cause this. I did everything I could to help my child. You can't control it either. No one can control another person, especially when that person's thinking is clouded by drug use. You see, we will talk about setting some boundaries, and be very clear. Boundaries are about establishing guidelines for your behavior. Boundaries will never be effective in trying to control the problem. And you might be thinking, well, I gotta try something. Yes, you do. But trying to control the situation doesn't work. And so we'll be talking much more about that as we go along. There's a whole segment on boundaries later in the modules. I just want to plant the seed now that control is not one of the things that's really possible. If you didn't have the power to cause it or the power to control it, you certainly don't have the power to cure it. No matter how much we would like to fix this for our children, we simply can't. You can't cure your child from cancer or diabetes, and you can't cure your child from drug addiction. But can we be a part of the solution? Well, absolutely. As a matter of fact, Joel's son was diagnosed with cancer as a child, and then later became addicted to drugs, having to go through chemotherapy and then later treatment for addiction. Was Joel a part of that solution? You bet he was, every step of the way. But when these things are left up to us alone, we just don't know anything about them. Joel didn't have the knowledge or the power to cure cancer or drug addiction. He had to reach out and ask for help, and so did I, because we just can't do it alone. So what's really important here is you have to cultivate the wisdom to tell the difference between what you can and cannot change. Stop trying to control or fix anyone but yourself. And once you can grasp the reality of this concept and you can live by it, your life will become much easier. I know that this has been a short segment, but it's an important time to plant some seeds here as you begin this process. Take some time to contemplate the points that we've made, and over time, you'll be able to grasp the concept of the 3 C's and accept that it's really not your fault. This concludes the material in this Fast Start module. In summary, this is what we have covered so far. In the Welcome segment, we gave you an overview of how the program works. We talked about the importance of the coaching calls and how in the community that we will grow and change. We explained that completing the worksheets is how this program gets personalized to your situation. And we reminded you about that oxygen mask. If you want to help someone else, you must help yourself first. The next segment was getting your head out of the sand. Here we looked at how our perception of drug use creates denial about the problem. We explored how we look for answers in all the wrong places. And we learned that if drugs are involved, we must start there to solve the problem. Focusing on the symptoms will not solve the problem. And in this last segment, the 3 C's we learned the importance of: we didn't cause it, we can't control it, and we can't cure it. The next module, Module 1, is about clarity and possibilities. We are going to dive deep into the problem, and we will begin assembling your bag of tools to face the problem. And I continue to encourage you to make your commitment to play full out. Be courageous.